in New York at the UN. Curtis Ellis on his way to D.C. today. Curtis Ellis, the executive director of the American Jobs Alliance at AmericanJobsAlliance.com. And also, Curtis now a regular contributor to WND.com and a registered correspondent at the United Nations. Seated right at the Star Wars bar. Good to have you with us, Mr. Ellis.
It's always great to be with you, John, Mr. Godzilla of Talk Radio, the Tribune of Truth.
A beacon of light. You forgot to say that.
Beacon of light, that's right.
Listen.
The warm pop-up of every morning.
That's right. I'm like a Pop-Tart, right? Just comes right out of that toaster. 6 a.m., ready to go, babe. That's my son's favorite thing to eat. He loves those Pop-Tarts. He loves to put them in and pop them up and eat them. So, listen, you had a column on WND.com. Expand.
Yeah, we are talking about what's at stake here in this election. What is the choice? Phyllis Schlafly said, a choice, not an echo. That's how she wrote about the 1964 Barry Goldwater versus Lyndon Johnson matchup. A choice, not an echo. Finally, there was a clear choice between the statism, big government, Lyndon Johnson, and a conservative, somebody called for limited government and liberty, Barry Goldwater, not somebody just trying to be Democrat light. And now, 50 years later, we've got another clear choice. And the choice this time, assuming that Mr. Trump's not hit by a meteor or run over by Jeb Bush in a Maserati or something, is it's going to be Trump versus Hillary. And the choice is between globalism and nationalism, or nationalism and globalism. Trump says, put America first. And Hillary Clinton is part of that crowd that says, put the third world first. Put a borderless world before America. Trump says, let's have policies, government policies, economic policies that put the interests of American citizens first. Hillary and John Kerry and her ilk, they say, let's have policies that put the world first, that put the global economy first, that you're competing in a borderless world now. There's no such thing as American citizens. As the way Carly Fiorina said it, there's no God-given right for Americans to have a job. You're competing against everybody else. I'll bet all those college students that heard that, I read this report that after John Kerry told them you're graduating into a borderless world, there was a spike in suicides among that graduating class. They said, what the hell did I do getting $250,000 in college loan debt if I'm going to be competing against some Bangladeshi who earns 3 cents a day? I mean, what's the purpose? I mean, this is ridiculous. I went into debt, went into Hock to get a degree in computer science, and now they can. I'm in a borderless world. They can just bring in Indians to do the job that I've been training for 4 years. So it's an ugly scene. But the choice that we have before us in this election, while some people are, wetting the bed and wringing their hands about the survival of the true conservative movement, we have the clearest choice you've ever seen between globalism and nationalism. If you believe in nationalism, you have a candidate. If you believe in America first, you have a candidate to vote for. If you believe in globalism, you have a candidate to vote for. That's the choice. It's that clear.
Curtis,
and it's that simple.
You're right. This is probably one of the starkest choices we have had, probably since Reagan, Carter in 1980, or even beyond that. I mean, you really have to go back a long time, because the difference here is one candidate that believes in the continuation of the elitist globalist policy to keep these trade deals flowing, to keep people coming into the United States unabated from Mexico or wherever. Now she's saying, the American way is to accept in all the Syrian refugees. They cost $65,000 each. We have $19 trillion in debt. No one knows what to do with it. The country's circling the drain, and you've got two candidates. One who's saying everything is fine, stick with me and I'll make it worse. Basically, that's what she's saying. I mean, when you boil it down, she said everything is fine and I'll make it worse. And the other guy is saying, you know what, we're in a bad path here. We've got to do something. It has to be dramatic. And the first thing we have to do is close the borders and not let anybody else in, because until we stop that, you don't have a country. It's being overrun and everybody knows it. And everything's going to flow out from there. So this is one of the starkest choices, I think, ever in the direction of the nation.
You know, John Kerry is famous for putting his foot in his mouth, for saying the truth when you're supposed to conceal it. If you're in a position like him as a diplomat, but if you're a lying politician, you're supposed to conceal the facts. John Kerry blurts it out. He blurted out, "Get ready for a borderless world." He's finally said it. Everybody's been out there calling Donald Trump a racist and a xenophobe for talking about putting up a wall. Oh, my God, he's a racist, he's a xenophobe, he hates foreigners, he hates Mexicans, he hates all these people. He wants to cut America off from the world. Really, what he's doing, he wants to deport 11 million people. There are laws on the books that say we have a border. You cannot cross the border unless you apply, unless you fulfill certain requirements. And you can only be in this country if we let you be in this country. Unless you were born here, you're born of parents who are citizens, you can't be in our country unless you follow the rules. There are laws that say that. John Kerry has finally come out and said, I want to get rid of those laws. Get ready for a borderless world. No one else has had the courage to say that. Instead, they just call him names. Mm-hmm. Instead of saying, well, really what Donald Trump is saying is we have laws, we're going to enforce the laws. Now, if you want to change the laws, if you think it's racist to have those laws, if you think it's xenophobic or somehow, bad breath, halitosis to have laws like that, go out and change the laws. Say so. Yeah, I want to change these laws because they're racist and it discriminates against Mexicans and Bangladeshis, and it's akin to bad breath, so I want to get rid of these laws. Say it. Well, John Kerry finally said it. I want to get rid of the laws. I don't want a country. I don't want borders. I want a big, shiny global economy that smart people and rich people like me and Teresa Hines will do fine in, and everybody else can, get in line with the Bangladeshis and the people who earn 3 cents a day.
Right, because along with the 3 cents a day, you're going to get a rice ball. Curtis, what John Kerry said on Friday in his commencement address to Northeastern University, which is a major American university, as you know, it's in Massachusetts. And what he said there was stunning. He said, you're getting ready to graduate into a what? A borderless world. His words. Mm-hmm. So get prepared to graduate into a borderless world. Obviously, that's what he believes. Otherwise, he would say, be prepared to graduate into an environment where we have to close the borders so that we have a country. He said the exact opposite. So he finally said what we know happens to be the truth. Hillary Clinton is going to have to defend this statement.
Well, they're going to gloss over it. It's gotten coverage in the Drudge Report. I haven't heard anybody on CNN talking about it. I haven't heard Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski talking about it. Oh, my gosh. See, because this is MSNBC, NBC, the parent company, sponsors a thing called the Global Citizen Festival. You've got all the lefties, all the liberals, they believe in a borderless world. They're constantly celebrating the entrepreneurs, the African women, the women of Africa and Asia who are getting microloans of $10, and they're creating, wonderful societies and lifting billions out of poverty. I mean, this is even the libertarians and even conservatives talk about how great free trade is because it has lifted 1 billion Chinese out of poverty. Well, that's fine for the Chinese, but you've submerged 1 million Americans into poverty. So the role of our government, the U.S. government, we're not concerned first about lifting 1 billion Chinese out of poverty. We're supposed to be concerned about raising the standard of living of Americans. Presenting opportunities for Americans. John Kerry should have said, prepare to graduate into a society where you can make a difference, where you can make it a better place, where you can prosper and find a cure for cancer, right? Find a cure for polio, which then we'll share with the entire world as if there were no borders. But the only way we can do that is if we have positive, affirmative policies that optimize the opportunity for you. And that's the only way we can get a handle and do that is by having a country with a government with a legislature, with representative government that is responsive and accountable to you. In this borderless world, who's accountable? Who's governing this borderless world, and how are they accountable? It's nonsense. Technology has now made borders irrelevant. Excuse me, America was founded on technologies that made borders irrelevant. It was called the sailing ship. The Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria was the technology of the day in 1492, and that's what Mr. Columbus sailed the ocean blue. So there was a globalized world then. There was technology then. And, this is just nonsense. This is gorilla dust they throw in our eyes to obscure the truth. There's nothing new about a global economy. There's nothing new about technology that goes around the world. There were telegraphs. There was radio in the 1920s. This is a bunch of hogwash.
It is total hogwash. And I'll tell you what, Curtis, the movement towards this borderless society is really, in my judgment, rooted on the pretext that many on the left believe that we are a bastard country that stole and pillaged our way to the top, that stole it from the Native Americans, and then you had the slavery thing going on, which was horrible, but that we're illegitimate and that we shouldn't have the right to be a country. That's really what's going on, because you get right down to it. I was thinking today when I get up, and I get up pretty early, so when I get up at 3:15, I'm at the top of my game. I just got to tell you that, oddly as that may be. And I'm thinking this through, and I'm looking at this quote, and I'm saying, why is Clinton ahead in any poll? And it gets down to the fact that, there's a contingent in this country that maybe they believe it, maybe they've been persuaded or brainwashed, that really believe that America is illegitimate. And when I grew up, my father used to tell me, he was just a working man, he was a blue-collar worker, had a high school diploma, and he used to say that in his judgment, God created America between these two vast oceans and put all these brilliant people together at the same time in order to be a beacon of freedom for the world. And that's what I grew up believing. You've got people now that just believe we don't deserve sovereignty, that we're just a bunch of thieves, right? There's got to be something behind this.
That's right. It was a settler colony. It was a settler nation. These Europeans came over and, stole the land from the Indians, and they enslaved the Africans and brought them over and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, okay, so what's new? What else is new? You can go back in history, time immemorial. You have this. The Aztecs came out of the desert and they took over the Central Valley of Mexico. The Bantu migrated south and took over Africa from the little pygmies that lived there before. People have been moving. Okay, so what? Get over yourselves. It just so happens that we enshrine some ideals here that made everything since possible. And we are the best country on earth. We're the most, I'm sure you live in the corner of France. You think the corner of France is the best country on earth. Maybe, maybe not. But I'll tell you what, the smartest people and the most daring people from France and England and Scotland and all these other places came to America. The people who were willing to take a chance and start a new life, they came here. And still to this day, you have people that want something better, and they come here, and they're welcome to, and there is a process for admitting them. We want talent. We want brains. We want guts. We want all that. Yeah, that's great. I love Bill Murray's line from Caddyshack. We were thrown out of the best countries on earth. The people that came to America were thrown out of the best countries on earth. So, we were 86th from Europe when we came here.
We're out of time. We want to thank Curtis Ellis for being with us. We always get him fired up. Go to Obamatrade.com.